kicking this off, I am so excited to bring on guest speaker for today, Daniel Smith. And we're talking about radical responsibility in life and love. And what I would say about Daniel, he's a relationship coach, but he's also the king of incredible quotes. And the quotes that you put out every day go right in. They're real, authentic, coming from you. And I look forward to reading them every day. So they're, because you can tell you're taking them from just something you've experienced or something in your own life, and they feel just raw and real. So they're powerful. You can talk about this whole session about one quote. So Daniel is in now California.
Yes.
But you were originally from England, but whereabouts?
Just outside London.
Okay. So perfect. Daniel, I'm going to pass it over to you, and we're going to dive right in because I know we don't have a lot of time. And I would love to make this interactive. So Larissa's on here, Banu's on here, I'm on here. So once you kind of share the meat of what you want to share, then we'll get into, asking questions, sharing feedback and stuff like that on what we feel. So Dan, take it away.
Excellent. Let's go. I'm excited. How long is this running for?
We had said 30 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
But I mean, give or take.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so welcome. I'm excited to be here with you guys. And today, as the title suggests, we're going to talk about radical responsibility. And so a little bit about, oh, you're still here. The screen changed. I got worried.
Now, I just want to confirm, Larissa and Banu, you see full shot of Dan, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
If I change it gallery my end, I'm still spotlighted for you guys, right? Yeah, I'm still spotlighted.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I can see you clearly.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll run with it. So, my focus and what I teach is how to thrive in conscious and aligned relationships. And it's a little bit of a sneaky maneuver because 9 out of 10 people that end up, I have 100+ new conversations in my Instagram DMs every week. And 9 out of 10 of them are people telling me, my boyfriend this, my wife that, my husband this. And the first thing I do is I hold up a big mirror and reflect straight back to them in a way that helps them go inward. And it's the beginning of introducing this topic of radical responsibility. And so today I am in just a wonderful relationship with an absolute queen. And, we thrive as a couple. But it wasn't always that way. It was like, if you would have been in a house with me in my previous relationships, right, especially through my 20s, it was like toxic was an understatement. And what I later realized was I was deeply traumatized in my household, my parents, lots of right? And so I blamed them for many years because I started to realize that the way I grew up caused me to be the way that I was. Therefore, it's their fault, right? They created the monster. And I got to a certain point of trying to do this whole personal growth and development thing and realized that it wasn't getting me very far. And there was a missing ingredient. And that was that I wasn't taking responsibility because I handed that responsibility to them. Now I stand by my statement. Was it their fault? Absolutely. Right? They showed up in the best way they could, but I was a baby, right? I was a toddler. I was a teen. And the environment that we especially we grow up in, right? We become the environment. We are conditioned by our environment. And so, yes, it was their fault. But once I had the awareness that it was my responsibility to make the change, everything changed. And so, you know, the people on the call here and the people watching the recording, like, I honor you for showing up, I'm just going to shut this window. Something beeping outside my door. Right, I honor you for showing up because you've taken time out of your day, out of your schedule to take responsibility for your mind, your body, your soul as part of this reset, which is fantastic. And one of the questions I'm going to leave you with beyond this call is, that's awesome, right? Honor yourself, but then also we get to ask ourselves, taking responsibility. And that is a question that's driven my life and the biggest key to me living the life that I live today in all areas. And I'm just going to pull up, I didn't actually know what radical meant, so I just threw it up as a title. So I looked it up. Radical, relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something. Example, a radical overhaul of the existing regulatory framework. And so my goal today is, we're not going to nail this in the next 20 minutes, but I want you to be thinking differently about your relationship with your life, your intimate relationships through the lens of responsibility by a radical overhaul of your existing framework of how you operate through this principle, okay? And so that's radical. I'm interested to know from someone else, how do you when you hear the word responsibility? You're on mute, Larissa. Can you unmute her?
Do you want me, Larissa? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, could you say that last question again? Because the speakers that just broke up a little bit.
How do you feel about the word responsibility? And what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it was through another video. I can't remember if it was yours or it was through you, Gary, as well. I think a few months back. I think it was a couple who was actually doing it. So but they were saying kind of about the same thing, and of course that made me think as well. And I've had a relation past for my children, and I felt very strongly that I had to take responsibility in admitting, certain things that I did wrong as well, to go forward for a better future for the children as well. And I felt that I had to do that to go forward for myself as well. Also with another new relation that you kind of know you're not going to make the same mistake again.
So I love your answer, and it's different to the answer I get a lot of the times, right? And it shows that you're already on that journey.
Yes.
A lot of the times the answer I get when I ask that question is, responsibility is like, I have to do something, right? I have to do something, and we're conditioned from childhood, right? Take responsibility, right? Like it's a bad thing. You're not doing your schoolwork, take responsibility, right? And so most people don't know what responsibility means, right? And they see it through that lens of childhood conditioning. So responsibility, when we break it down, right? 2 words, response, ability. As in, we have the ability to respond in every situation, right? How do we respond? Well, we can respond, and we get to choose how we're going to think about something, how we're going to feel about something, and then ultimately, what are we going to do? Right? We always have control over that. And so when the way that I throw up the mirror with the people that show up my DMs, blaming their partner, I show them the mirror of responsibility. So what does that look like? And also I get a lot of pushback, right? He cheated on me. How is that my responsibility? Okay, it might not have been your fault. And maybe we can dig into why it ended up that way. But ultimately, if you're in a relationship with someone, you shouldn't really do that, right? So we can say that they're at fault. But it's your responsibility. How am I going to respond? How am I going to respond to someone cheating on me? Right? I had the DM this morning. I'm in a new relationship, 6 months, and he keeps ghosting me. Okay. How do you feel about that? Oh, I feel sad. I feel rejected. I feel unloved. Okay, cool. How would you like to feel? I'd like to feel excited. I'd like to feel loved. I'd like to feel belonging. Right? Take responsibility. Right? And there's the question. Questions are the answers. This is how we take responsibility, is through questions, powerful questions. We get to ask ourselves, where am I not taking responsibility? So where in that situation may she have not been taking responsibility? Well, she's outsourcing her happiness to some guy that she met 6 months ago that's ghosting her. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, because we're human beings with human emotions, but we can always take responsibility, right? I say in relationships, it's never them, it's always us. Never them, it's always us. Why? Because we're presented with a situation that we get to make a choice. And again, we have trauma, we have patterns of behavior. A lot of this is unconscious, but we may not know what to do, but we can always default back to the question of, how can I take responsibility? Right? What am I going to do in this situation with this dude ghosting me? Well, again, I can make a decision, a doing decision. I'm going to end it, or I'm going to try and talk to him. But again, how am I going to respond? How am I going to see this? And how am I going to show up for myself rather than expecting someone else to show up for me? And we live in a mirroring universe, right? So a lot of these examples are some way of saying, this person's not showing up for me. And so I say, are you showing up for you? And in which ways are you not? And if you're not showing up for you, how can you expect someone else to? Right? And so I'm just going to pause there. I just spoke a lot. Any questions? Thoughts? Yes, Banu. You're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was reading the same thing in the book. So the same concept we talked about, that everything is our responsibility. And if, let's say, we are in a relationship and if something happens to us, we are not sure about ourselves, that is going to reflect in our actions and how we are treating our partner. And even if we don't say to them, even if we don't communicate to them, they will pick up on it. Like, something is going wrong here. And then obviously they are not going to trust us, or whatever is the case happens to be. But the thing is, okay, I mean, even if you know all these things, but in life, things always happens. You might lose a job, you might fail a business, you might lose a lot of money. So it's not like something is bad happening around you. You might lose a father one day. Anything can happen. Your friend may die of cancer or an accident. So obviously your mood is gonna go up and down, and things are gonna happen to you. So external circumstances are gonna affect you. So that's ultimately is gonna radiate out to your partner. So, and that actually leads to a lot of problem. Like in America, I remember, like, according to statistics, 77% of the marriages end in divorce, and the major root cause of divorce is financial distress. So this is happening. So how to deal with this thing? And this thing
Great.
happens.
And see,
Yeah.
great question. Thank you. It's breaking up a little bit, but right, it sounds like we've got an overwhelming situation. We're showing up in a certain way in our relationship, and a big one is finances, right? So again, we're in the situation. Why? Why are we in the financial situation? I lost my job because of COVID. It's not, how's that my fault? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Exactly.
Right? How do you respond to that? Now, there might not be an instant answer, but this is the questioning we get to ask ourselves to take responsibility and stand in our power to make change. Can we change it overnight? Maybe not. If you lose a job during COVID, it's a little bit tough, right? So if I can change it, go and get another job, fantastic. If not, and I'm aware that I'm overwhelmed, okay, what can I do about that, right? I can't fix the money situation right now.
Exactly.
How can I take responsibility for my internal state so that I don't project my stuff onto my partner, right? Oh, but it's easier said than done, right? You're dealing with this, you're overwhelmed. Okay, how are you communicating? Oh, we don't communicate very well. Take responsibility, right? You can't afford to pay rent, don't pay rent, go buy a book on communication. Go onto YouTube, because I guarantee you're still paying for your internet connection, right?
Right.
And again, there's no formula here, right? Life is a dance. It's a constant motion. It's not black and white. There are no absolutes. And we get to take responsibility for the direction we're going in. Are we going in a direction where we are, like you guys are showing up to this call today, putting in the time and effort to master our mental, emotional world so that when we're in crisis, we find calm amongst the chaos, right? That's how you would take responsibility in that situation, right? Now, there's two people that cause a divorce. Maybe they're not taking responsibility. Okay, but you can, right? And maybe one person shifts in a relationship mentally, emotionally. They start growing, thinking differently, feeling differently, showing up differently, a different level of consciousness. It can transform a relationship. If it doesn't, you'll grow apart naturally, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, again, every step of the way, every time we place blame outside of ourselves, we're not taking responsibility, and we give our power away and say, I can't be happy because of my job, COVID, my husband, because I've got kids. Oh, it's easy for you to say, Daniel, you don't have kids. The number of times I've heard that, right? I worked with a guy, he was 30 at the time, Heathrow Airport in London during the construction. And I was not in a state of consciousness that I'm in today. And I was poking fun at him because he had a big beer belly. And he said, you wait till you're 30, right? As if, right? What's the belief there? As you get old, your health declines. Well, it does in some ways, right? When you have kids, you don't have time for yourself. Is that true? Questions. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes.
Any other questions?
I have one. What is your thoughts about making boundaries?
I make them.
Yeah.
Right. I am a recovered people pleaser. And sometimes I catch myself reverting back. And so it's right. First, you got to be clear on, what are my boundaries And how am I not showing off myself by setting? I had, just before this call, I had a DM. I asked, how is this showing up for you in boundaries? Oh, I go out when I don't want to. I can't say no to my friends. Now, well, why don't I ask you, Larissa, where are you not setting boundaries in your life?
I think it will always be an question what you ask yourself, because you come into situations that you sometimes have to shift. You know, you maybe need to change the way you think about something what you maybe thought was dramatic before, or maybe because what you're saying, you're learning through life, you're growing as well, and you start to understand more of yourself. But then there's still sometimes, you know, you come into a situation which was new, and it can suddenly cause quite a lot of emotion. And the boundaries, I would say, at the moment, if I'm going to be honest, and Kari knows about this, I have a relation on distance, but at the moment, my daughter is not very well, and with the COVID, it has affected her. She's 15, a teenager, and I having to make a boundary in ways of putting priority to my daughter. And I see that as an very important thing what I have to do now. And so I'm basically stepping back, and I see it this way. This is my responsibility. And at the same time, there's always questions. There's always this question in the back of the head: am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? But kind of inside, you feel that you are doing the right thing. But I think, you know, it's always that little voice that kind of tries to tell you from it's maybe different. It's, I suppose that's the time when you need to take a rest, and, you know, maybe to meditate, and, you know, come back to yourself and making sure that what you're doing is the right thing.
Firstly, like, I send all of my love and healing energy to your daughter, and I hope for a swift recovery. And of course, well, you know, the first step, I love what you said, right? This is my responsibility of where I prioritize my time and my attention.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with, and I guess in the nature of this talk is, right, it's like you say, it's a dance. As we grow, as we shift, as we heal, we always get to renegotiate and decide how we're going to play this game of life. And I understand firsthand how emotionally uncomfortable it can be setting boundaries, because I had an abandonment wound, and so I was afraid, or if I set this boundary, then they're going to abandon me. I didn't understand it consciously, but that was the emotion that was coming up for me. So I'm wondering, have you tried to set the boundary with your relationship, or is that something you're processing right now?
That's a difficult one to answer. I think, because you go through a lot of emotions from how are you going to bring that, how are you going to do that, and I think that is probably always the hardest thing in a relationship, that when you're confronted to something, and, you know, it's not going to be easy, and you actually have to talk to it, and that talking in the first begin is always kind of, you know, you get the reactions, you know, it's always boom. And then it's time to kind of settle down, to think things through from both sides. And I can say it's only since I've been talking about this probably 3 weeks slowly, and I've made it clear a week ago. And I would say that there is understanding, but of course, I don't know where it's going to go to. But we will communicate face to face. I know that I made that time that we can still communicate. But it will be more into a flow. I'm not going to look in the future. It's just the only thing that I know is that I'm going to communicate this weekend to explain more about the reasons about myself, and then from there I'll just let it go open.
Beautiful. And so because of the time we have left, I'm just gonna just give you a few ideas. Firstly, right, how you communicate is important. And I think on the emotional standpoint, it's about leaning into your right. Where's my edge of discomfort, and finding it, and just leaning in gently, like you said, just starting slowly and just opening up for honest communication. Right, you can't control how they're going to respond, and if they were to respond, I don't know the full context of the situation, but if they were to respond in a way that is not one that you'd like to receive, you can learn a lot from that. Right?
Yeah.
But meditation is good. Taking some. I messaged Carrie a couple of hours ago. I was not feeling good today, and so before this call, I really wanted to show up in the best energetic state that I could. So I breathed, I meditated, and I had a little dance, right? Shifting as much of that anxious energy before the conversation is going to help the conversation. But ultimately, you get to just default your heart, right? If you can't see that it's important that you need to look after your daughter when she's sick, then you'll learn a lot from that conversation. So I guess the best I can say, just in the time we have left, is get into the best state you can before the conversation. Approach it with the most love, care, and attention you can for the other person.
I'm seeking out, and sorry, I'm having a location in mind as well, which is outdoors at the beach, and just as relaxed as possible. Say that.
And just know.
Sorry.
You're not going to die. Just know that you're not going to die. Right.
Yeah.
You get to go through it, and on the other side of it is your freedom.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome. I know we're I say 12:30. You're in different places, but I know we're at 1:30. Carrie, is there anything that you want to kind of finish this off with?
Well,
You've been very quiet. I've never.
Yeah, I mean, go a little bit more. If someone else has a question or a couple people have questions, then I think it's great to address it if you're okay with it. And if they don't, then I have something I was going to bring up. But anybody else here have a question for Dan?
Go ahead, Carrie, bring it up.
Well, actually, no, it's kind of a slightly different topic. So if you're, go for it, Julia.
Oh, I don't have a question. That's why I was going to say, you go ahead.
Well, I know from Dan, everything he's speaking is so much is, like you said, just living the experience of it, just doing it, just reading about your past, Dan, about what triggered you in relationships, the triggers. And how, because I think this is an important point to bring up too, and about the mirror and everything. And this is a slightly different topic, but all down to relationships too, is and that's where we're triggered the most, is in relationships. And in your story about how you would leave relationships before the person had a chance to up. And I bring this up because I think this is not just this story, but triggers in general are everywhere. And you learned from yours. Can you expand on this story of yours?
Yeah. So,
Before you go, can I just get Larissa, can you mute too? I'm just gonna, just so we can hear Dan clear.
So I think the post was about emotional regulation, and it's definitely a journey, right? When we're confronted with a situation and our emotional body takes over to the point where, right, our rational mind and anything we might have learned from a book or right from someone could go out the window. And so in my situation, I had my earliest memory is sitting in a chair, terrified to speak or move, with my dad screaming and shouting at me as like a 2-year-old, just constantly, chronically. And so when I get into relationships, I can now see in reflection that whenever that person got upset and screamed or shouted, my emotional body would just go out of control, outside of my zone of tolerance, where I could have the space to think, how am I going to respond to this, right? How am I feeling right now? What's the best and most loving way to respond? How should I act? I was straight out the door because I was reacting out of the wound. And my mum actually left my dad, but ultimately I was with my mum. My dad left, right? That's the way that I saw it. I was abandoned by him. And so screaming and shouting, she's going to leave me, my girlfriend, therefore I'm going to leave first before I go through that again. And so firstly, our triggers in relationships is the I feel the most valuable portal to our healing, because it's in relationship that the other person is a mirror to us, right? Reflects back to us our deepest fears, our insecurities, our wounds from the past. And when the emotion comes up, right, Larissa, in that situation, when the emotion comes up, the emotion is a signpost, right? Rather than looking outside, it's a signpost back inwards. What do I get to heal? Why am I feeling this way? What is it triggering in me? And then we get to go on that discovery to find out where that's coming from, right? Now, either we find out where it's coming from, which is a big part of the work I do with my clients, to trace that back so we can go back to the event and reframe it and heal it and go through the emotional regulation together so that it loses power over us. There's other ways of moving trauma out of the body, but the key is, okay, there's something there that I get to heal. How do you get to the healing is not, right, there's no formula. It's not linear. I've been through some deep healing from many different modalities, plant medicine, breath work, and then just some experiences in my relationship where I was in a relationship where we created this space in the container where we could process those emotions. There's many ways to get there. The key is, I was expecting you, right? The emotion comes up and maybe in the moment it's too overwhelming. But now you get to expect it. I was expecting you. This feels uncomfortable, right? How am I going to respond? If we don't heal the emotion, if we ignore it, we distract ourselves. Sex, masturbation, food, alcohol, drugs, Netflix, right? This is how most people deal with their emotions, They want it to go away. I don't want to feel this way. And we miss the opportunity for healing. If we don't heal it, the next time we're faced with a situation that triggers and reflects back to us that pain, it comes back up again. And we keep going through this loop until we heal the wound. And so now I'm at a point where I'm grateful for, and when I first started getting into this, I was a little bit overexcited about it. I was like, this is cool. Now I know how to, now I can spot it coming up in my body before it takes over me. Because back in the day, boom, it was like a switch. It would take over me. I would become the emotion and my conscious mind was gone. Now I feel it coming up, but it come through years of learning to regulate my emotions. So everyone gets to go on that journey, and it's not always fun. It's often uncomfortable, usually, and at the worst, it's extremely painful. But on the other side of our healing is our freedom. When we release that emotion and we heal that wound, we have a new level of freedom because it doesn't have control over us anymore. And on the journey to freedom is us gaining a little bit more power, a little bit more power, a little bit more power over the emotion rather than the emotion taking over us. Something like that.
Wonderful. So well said.
Maybe I have a follow-up question on that one. Quick question. So what you said is absolutely correct. I completely agree with that. But let's say you are in a situation, okay, we applied our brain and thought, and what happened? Why we don't feel good enough? Okay, maybe our last partner treated us badly. That's why we don't feel good enough. Okay, maybe my current boss is not appreciative of me. That's why I don't feel appreciated. Also, okay, now I have to heal this trauma. Okay, so now there are two ways. One is I prepare my mindset so strong and go through the pain and journey that I don't need any external validation, any external appreciation. My appreciation and validation comes from within me. I know my core, and that's where everything comes from. That's one way of doing it. And the second way of doing it is, of course, you go out and seek pleasure from other side. Maybe alcohol and other things are okay. That's another alternative. Or you can maybe change job or switch to a boss or switch to a different partner from where you can get that validation or that praise or whatever it happens to be. So the thing is like now you are in a situation at the moment when shit has already hit the fan and no one is liking you. You have a bad boss, you have a bad partner or whatever. Now how to heal this kind of situation? Like now you are in a bad spot already. Like shit has already hit the fan. You are already in a bad spot. Now what? How to deal with? What to do now?
It's a great question, and trauma is there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and what's being triggered, the emotion that's coming up, is something that's stored in our body, right? It stays with us, and when it comes up, if we push it back down again, we don't heal it. So often there's a limitation, and I'm so passionate about trauma because there's a lot of people in the coaching space, in the personal development space, talking about change your thoughts, change your life. But that's useless to someone that has got trauma in the body, because when it comes up, I'm not being validated. You don't get to think, I don't need validation, because your body says otherwise, right? The emotion will comes up. It doesn't listen to your cognitive mind saying, I don't need validation. The healing comes when we deal with the emotion, when we learn to regulate our emotion, when we bring awareness to the physical sensation in the body, when we observe it, when we release it. And it's a process. It's gonna, even when you become aware of it, it can come up in the next relationship and the next one, because we can go through a process of healing. My recommendation is working with someone to over time co-regulate our emotional state and our trauma and what's coming up for us in relationships until we learn to regulate it ourselves. I can't give you an answer right now so that you're like, oh, okay, perfect, I'll do that, right? I do co-regulation with my clients, and we go back to traumatic events, and we do healing. I've healed through plant medicine, I've healed through meditation, and just sitting and observing my emotional state and learning to release it. But it's taken, I've been on my journey for 13 years. And so realize that we never get to a completion. This is the key. We never get to a completion. There's always another level of healing, of release, another layer of consciousness. And again, it's a dance. So what we're doing is we're not learning to fix problems, we're learning how to dance. Or dance, as you guys say. Right, makes sense? When we're learning self-regulation so that we can process our own emotions and don't make decisions out of our wounding.
Learning how to dance in the
I missed the last part.
No, learning how to dance in the fire.
In the fire, exactly.
Maybe one more statement on something you've shared today, and then we'll close it off.
One more statement on
What someone has taken away. Like, I know, Larissa, you wanted to add something to that, or you're muted. Unmute you.
Sorry. Okay. Yep. Sorry, I can't see your name now. From
Daniel.
No.
Banu.
You brought up you brought up about from how what is the process of healing, because I suppose we all go through traumas, and you don't really think for every trauma you need to go to an specialist, you want to, or to, of course, when it's a deep trauma, then yes, definitely, it's important that you seek guidance and you seek and help. But when it comes to the healing fact, are you saying that the more you are aware of it, and every time you feel the trigger coming, that you say you kind of recognize it and you say hello to it, that is already the start of the healing, and that already gives more positive vibration in your body, which gradually through time will become softer?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first key is developing the awareness, right? It's become cool to meditate, right? And so people meditate now. And a lot of people follow guided meditations. There's a place for that. But ultimately, I like to meditate in silence, because we're letting go of repetitive thoughts. We have an estimated 60,000 thoughts every day, and 95% of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before and the day before. There's no use in that, right? Until we become aware of them and we get to change the script. So first we have to become aware of what's coming up. When we're aware in the moment, by sitting down in a chair, right, somewhere comfortable, and just closing our eyes, for me, it's always right here in my solar plexus, and just observe it. Just breathe into it. Be curious about it. Don't judge it. Don't try and make it go away. Don't make it wrong, right? Just watch it. And it's like discharging a battery, right? This thing is fully charged. And as we just watch it and bring our attention to it without trying to distract ourselves, it slowly will discharge. Now, the next time it comes up, you have a greater awareness of it. You have a different relationship with it. And so you get to, again, sit with it and let it move through you.
I like the thought.
Right.
I like the thing that you're saying here, because I think a lot of stuff mostly kind of stays in the head, and you know you're doing your healing process, but to kind of bring it down, I think is definitely, yeah.
It's the first thing I'd say is become aware of it, locate it in the body, and observe it. You can talk to it. You can ask it questions. All right. Where did you come from? When we ask a question, our brain will look for the answer. I'm still fascinated today, some of the questions that when I work with my coaches, that they ask me, and it takes me in a direction, and I become aware of something that I just wasn't aware of, even though I do this work every day, right? And when you're talking about trauma, there's stuff that we're aware of, and then there's stuff that we're not aware of, right? And rather than seeing it as something I need to fix, I go out and I'm like, okay, I want to discover something else. I just want to learn about me, right? What's happening inside of me that I'm not aware of? I can work on the stuff that I'm aware of. What about the stuff that I'm not aware of?
Yeah.
And that is a fantastic question and statement to finish with. I never thought of that. What is it in there that I'm not aware of? Like to state that question. That's you. I've written some notes here, Daniel. Wow. You've got a lot of stuff there. We covered a lot in 45 minutes. I'm telling you. So this will be posted in the Mind Body group as well. So once I have the recording and edit it down, then I'm going to post it there so you can listen to it again. But yeah, what I learned is to look at it as some like fascinating. You know, like this is interesting, not something to push away, but this is cool. Like, what else is in there? Like taking interest in yourself. So I find that huge for relationships, right?
Yeah.
Daniel, we appreciate you. I know I super appreciate you for showing up in your authentic self, exactly as you are, sharing what you've learned. And it'll be rippled tenfold as more people hear this talk. Not just that are here, but people that afterwards. So there's some powerful.
Thank you for having me, Gabby. I really appreciate being here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. And when I post this in the group, make sure to leave a comment below as well for Dan. And Dan, you can also put in your information there.
Sounds good.
Cool. And you got to
Bye,
check
guys.
out his quotes on Instagram. Meet Dan Smith on Instagram. You can read his quotes every day. They're top.
So kind.
Everybody have a great night and rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
guys.
Bye.